we were still at the house. My granddaughters, Lily, 7, and Harper, 4, were in the backyard with the neighbor's kids, too young to understand that the man who pushed them on the swings wasn't coming back. My son had been in the ground for 40 minutes. 60 people were in the living room eating sandwiches and saying, "Is in a better place," because they don't know what else to say. The flag that had draped his casket was folded in a triangle on the mantel. The photographs of him in his marine dress blues were on every surface. My daughter-in-law Vanessa pulled me into the kitchen. She closed the door. Black dress. Dry eyes. They'd been dry all day through the eulogy, through the burial, through the 21-gun salute that the Marines had given my son because he'd served 8 years and earned that honor. "Arthur, I need you out of the house by tonight. Tonight." "Vanessa, the funeral was 2 hours ago. I know when the funeral was. I need the guest room cleared. Someone is moving in." "Who's moving in?" "That's not your concern." 1 minute later, a black Dodge Ram pulled into the driveway. A man got out. He walked past the 60 mourners on the porch, past the folded flag, past my son's photographs, and into my daughter-in-law's house carrying a duffel bag. 60 people watched a stranger walk into a dead Marine's house with a bag packed for staying. And Vanessa opened the door for him while my son's daughters played in the backyard, and my son's body was still settling into Virginia clay. What Vanessa didn't know was that my son had seen this coming. And what he'd left behind, in a place she'd never think to look, was the thing that took back everything she thought she'd won. Before we go any further, thank you for being here. If that duffel bag already has you seeing red, take a second and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. It truly helps this channel reach more people. And a gentle reminder, while this story carries real emotions and real lessons, some names, details, and events have been fictionalized for narrative and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real individuals is coincidental. Stay with me, because the man with the duffel bag is not the worst part of this story. What Vanessa did to my son's military benefits is the part that made a federal investigator pick up the phone. My name is Arthur Caldwell. I'm 66 years old. I live in Stafford County, Virginia, the stretch of land between Fredericksburg and the Marine Corps base at Quantico, where half the driveways have a truck with a military sticker, and half the mailboxes have a flag that means something more than decoration. My son, Sergeant Ryan Arthur Caldwell, United States Marine Corps, born 1992, died January 18, 2025, not in combat at home. A traumatic brain injury sustained during a training exercise at Camp Lejeune in 2019 had caused a progressive neurological condition, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. Though CTE can only be definitively diagnosed post-mortem through neuropathological examination. Ryan had been experiencing seizures, memory loss, and personality changes for 3 years. The VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, had rated his disability at 80%, which entitled him to a monthly disability compensation of approximately $9,995 under the 2025 VA disability pay schedule. Ryan died of a seizure at 30:14 a.m. on a Saturday. He was 32 years old. He'd served 8 years, 2 deployments to Afghanistan, a Purple Heart for a shrapnel wound in Helmand Province, and a Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal for actions during a firefight in Sangin District in 2013. He was the kind of Marine who didn't talk about what he'd done, because the men who do the most talk the least. He came home in 2018. He married Vanessa Cole in 2019, 3 months before the training accident that changed everything. They had Lily in 2018, before the marriage, and Harper in 2021. They lived in a house on Garrisonville Road in Stafford, a 3-bedroom ranch that Ryan and I had renovated together in 2020. Before his condition made him unable to hold a drill, the house was in Ryan's name. Purchased in 2018 for $285,000 using a VA home loan, a mortgage benefit available to eligible veterans through the Department of Veterans Affairs, requiring no down payment and no private mortgage insurance. The VA loan program, established by the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, the GI Bill, has helped over 25 million veterans purchase homes. Ryan's loan was at 3.25%, with a monthly payment of $240. After the injury, Ryan couldn't work. His disability compensation and a small VA caregiver stipend, paid to Vanessa as his designated caregiver under the VA program of comprehensive assistance for family caregivers, provided approximately $3,800 per month. It wasn't much, but it covered the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, and the medical supplies that Ryan needed. I helped, every week. I drove down from my house in Stafford, 15 minutes away, and I mowed the lawn, fixed what was broken, played with the girls, and sat with Ryan on the days when his brain let him be himself and held his hand on the days when it didn't. Vanessa was Ryan's caregiver. Officially. The VA paid her $1,800 per month through the caregiver program. That's what the paperwork said. That's what the VA believed. That's what I believed. The reality was different. Vanessa had been seeing another man since 2022. His name was Troy Devlin, 38 years old. A civilian contractor who worked at Marine Corps Base Quantico. Not military, but adjacent. The kind of man who wears tactical boots and a polo shirt and talks about the guys at the base, as though proximity is the same as service. Troy and Vanessa had been together for 3 years. While Ryan was having seizures in the living room. While Ryan was losing the ability to remember his daughter's names. While Ryan was deteriorating from a man who'd earned a Purple Heart into a man who couldn't button his own shirt. I didn't know about Troy. Ryan did. Ryan told me in November 2024, 2 months before he died. He was having a clear day. The seizures came in waves, days of confusion followed by windows of terrible clarity, where Ryan could see his own decline and understand it with a precision that was worse than the confusion. Dad, I need to tell you about Vanessa. What about her? She's been seeing someone. A guy named Troy, for 3 years. Ryan. I know because she doesn't try to hide it anymore. She talks to him on the phone in the kitchen. She leaves at night after she thinks I'm asleep. She takes the girls to his apartment on Saturdays and tells me they're at the park. How long have you known? Since 2023. I found the texts on her phone. She left it unlocked on the counter. She doesn't think I'm capable of reading anymore. She's wrong. My body is broken, Dad. My brain has bad days. But I can still read. I can still think. And on my clear days, I've been doing something. What have you been doing? Preparing. Ryan had spent his clear days, the windows between seizures, the hours when his mind was his own, building a case. Not from a law office, not from a computer, from a fireproof lockbox hidden in the crawl space beneath the house, a space that Vanessa never entered, because it required crawling through a 24-inch access panel in the utility closet, and Vanessa, in Ryan's words, wouldn't crawl through mud for $1 million. The lockbox contained 4 things. First, a revised will. Ryan had drafted it using a legal template from the Virginia State Bar's Self-Help Resources, a valid option for simple wills under Virginia Code Section 64.2403, which requires that a will be in writing, signed by the testator, and attested by 2 competent witnesses. Ryan had signed it on a clear day. 2 witnesses. His neighbor, Frank Barrera, a retired master sergeant, and Frank's wife, Linda, had attested it. The will removed Vanessa as beneficiary of everything. The house, the life insurance, the VA death benefits, the investment account Ryan had quietly maintained at USAA Federal Savings Bank, all of it redirected. The house went into a trust for Lily and Harper with me as trustee. The service members, group life insurance, SGLI, a $400,000 policy provided to all active, duty and eligible veteran service members through the Department of Veterans Affairs, was reassigned $200,000 to each granddaughter, 0 to Vanessa. The USAA investment account, $62,000, built from disability payments that Ryan had been saving instead of spending, went to me, designated for the girls' education. Second, a USB drive containing screenshots of Vanessa's text conversations with Troy. Ryan had photographed her phone screen on 4 separate occasions, dates, times, and content documented. The texts included explicit messages, plans to meet, and most critically, conversations about money. One text from Vanessa to Troy dated September 14, 2024, the VA caregiver money is $1,800 a month. When he dies, the SGLI pays $400K, plus the house. We just have to wait. We just have to wait. 5 words. The financial plan of a woman caring for her dying husband, not as a caregiver, but as an investor. Waiting for the return on a human being she'd already written off. Third, a letter from Ryan. Addressed to me. 2 pages. I'll share it when the time comes. Fourth, the complaint form, pre-filled. Addressed to the VA Office of Inspector General, the OIG, the independent oversight body that investigates fraud, waste, and abuse within the Department of Veterans Affairs. The complaint alleged that Vanessa Cole Caldwell had been fraudulently collecting caregiver stipend payments while failing to provide adequate care, using the VA funds to support her relationship with Troy Devlin rather than Ryan's medical needs. Caregiver fraud is a federal offense. The VA Program of Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers requires that the designated caregiver provide personal care services, supervision, and assistance with activities of daily living. Collecting the stipend while neglecting the veteran, or while redirecting the funds for personal use, constitutes fraud under 18 U.S.C. Section 1001, which criminalizes false statements to a federal agency, and potentially under 18 U.S.C. Section 1341, the federal mail fraud statute, since the stipend payments are delivered via direct deposit through the federal payment system. Ryan had built this case the way Marines build fighting positions, from the ground up, with cover and concealment, designed to withstand an assault. He'd built it on his clear days. He'd hidden it in a crawl space, and he'd told one person where to find it. Me. The lockbox is in the crawl space. Ryan said that November afternoon. Access panel in the utility closet. The combination is your birthday 08-2258. When I die, not if Dad, when. Go get it before Vanessa changes the locks. Ryan, she'll move Troy in fast. The same day if she can, she'll push you out, she'll take the SGLI, she'll take the house, she'll take the VA benefits. And she'll take Lily and Harper and raise them with a man who was sleeping with their mother, while their father was having seizures on the living room floor. I won't let that happen. You can't stop it unless you have the lockbox, the will, the texts, the OIG complaint, everything I could build on the days when my brain let me fight. Ryan died 2 months later, January 18, 2025. Seizure, 30:14 a.m. The funeral was January 23rd. Full military honors. The Marine Corps Honor Guard, the flag folding, the 3-volley salute, often called a 21-gun salute, though technically it's 3 volleys of 7 rifles. The bugler playing taps. The presentation of the folded flag to the next of kin. They presented the flag to Vanessa. She held it in her lap during the ceremony. She didn't cry. She held the flag the way you hold a package you're waiting to put down. 40 minutes later, she told me to leave. 1 minute after that, Troy walked in with a duffel bag. I didn't argue with Vanessa that day. I didn't confront her. I didn't make a scene in front of 60 mourners and 2 little girls who'd just lost their father. I looked at Vanessa and I said, "I'll get my things." I went to the guest room. I packed my bag. And then I did what Ryan had told me to do. The utility closet was in the hallway between the guest room and the garage. The access panel to the crawl space was a 24-inch plywood square secured with 4 Phillips head screws. I removed the screws with a multi-tool I carry in my pocket, 38 years as a contractor. You always carry tools. I opened the panel. I crawled into the space beneath the house, red Virginia clay, cold, dark. The smell of earth and concrete, and the particular dampness of a crawl space that hasn't been entered in years. The lockbox was against the foundation wall, wrapped in a black garbage bag to protect it from moisture. I pulled it out. I entered the combinations 08-2258. It opened. The will, the USB drive, the letter, the OIG complaint. Everything Ryan had built on his clear days, stored beneath the house he'd bought with a VA loan. Hidden from the woman who was supposed to be caring for him. I put the lockbox in my truck. I walked out through the living room, past the 60 mourners, past the flag on the mantel, past Troy Devlin, who was already sitting in Ryan's recliner. Arwan's recliner. The chair where my son had his seizures, the chair where I'd held his hand on the bad days, drinking a beer from Ryan's refrigerator. I drove home. I opened the lockbox on my kitchen table, and I read Ryan's letter. "Dad, if you're reading this, I'm gone and Vanessa has already started. She's fast. She planned this. The day I'm buried, she'll move Troy in. She'll push you out. She'll file for the SGLI. She'll keep the house. She'll keep the girls. And she'll tell everyone that she was a devoted wife who nursed her husband through his final years. She wasn't. She was a woman who collected $1,800 a month from the VA to take care of a man she was cheating on. She used the caregiver money for Troy dinners, trips. The apartment he lives in on Jefferson Davis Highway is subsidized by my disability. My disability. The one I earned in Helmand Province. The one that cost me my brain. She turned my Purple Heart into her boyfriend's rent. The will in this box replaces the one on file. I changed it on October 3rd, 2024. Frank and Linda witnessed it. It's valid. The SGLI beneficiary change was submitted through my MillConnect account on the same day. You can verify with the VA. The house goes to the girls through you. The money goes to the girls through you. Vanessa gets nothing. The USB drive has the texts. Read them if you need to. Show them to a lawyer. Show them to the VA. Show them to anyone who needs to understand what she did while I was dying. The OIG complaint is ready to file. Mail it. The address is on the form. Or deliver it in person to the VA OIG Regional Office in Washington, D.C., 810 Vermont Avenue, NW. They'll investigate. The caregiver fraud alone is a federal charge. Combined with the texts about the SGLI. When he dies, the SGLI pays $400K. We just have to wait. It becomes conspiracy. Dad, I need you to do something harder than all of this. I need you to take the girls. Not permanently. I can't ask you to raise 2 children at 66. But temporarily. Until the courts sort out custody. Vanessa is not fit. She was never fit. She was performing caregiving for a camera and a check. The girls deserve better. They deserve you. I fought in Afghanistan. I earned medals. I survived a war. But the hardest fight was the one in this house. Fighting to protect my daughters from a woman who was counting down the days until I stopped breathing. I lost the war against my brain. But I'm winning this one. With a lockbox. On my clear days, Semper Fi, Dad. That means always faithful. I was faithful to you, to the girls, to the corpse. Vanessa wasn't faithful to anything except the payout. Take care of Lily and Harper. They have your stubbornness in my eyes. That's enough to build on. Ryan, P.S. Troy drives a black Dodge Ram. If he's in the driveway when you read this, he was there before I was cold. Remember that. Troy was in the driveway. Ryan was right. About everything. I filed the OIG complaint the next morning. I didn't mail it. I drove to Washington, 60 miles north on I-95, and delivered it in person to the VA Office of Inspector General at 810 Vermont Avenue, NW. The intake officer reviewed the complaint, the USB drive contents, and the text message screenshots. She assigned a case number within an hour. The OIG investigation took 3 months. Federal investigations move at their own pace. The VA OIG handles approximately 12,000 cases per year, with a staff of 1,000 investigators and support personnel. But Ryan's case had 2 accelerants: the text messages explicitly referencing the SGLI payout as a financial plan, and the documented pattern of caregiver stipend misuse. The investigation confirmed everything. Vanessa had been collecting $1,800 per month in caregiver stipend payments for 36 months, a total of $64,800. During that period, she had been spending an average of 3-4 nights per week at Troy's apartment, leaving Ryan alone in the house. Neighbors confirmed this. Frank Barrera, the retired master sergeant who'd witnessed Ryan's will, provided a detailed log of Vanessa's absences that he'd kept at Ryan's request. The investigation also confirmed the SGLI beneficiary change. Ryan had updated his beneficiary designation through MillConnect, the DoD's self-service portal for military personnel, on October 3, 2024. The change removed Vanessa and designated $200,000 to each daughter, with me as the custodial trustee. The change was valid. The SGLI, administered by the Office of Service Members, Group Life Insurance under Prudential Financial, confirmed that the updated beneficiary form was on file and would govern the payout. Vanessa had already filed a claim for the $400,000. She'd filed it on January 20th, 2 days after Ryan died, 3 days before the funeral, before the burial, before the flag folding, before Troy walked in with the duffel bag. She'd filed for the money before she'd buried the man. The claim was denied. The beneficiary designation showed Lily and Harper, not Vanessa. Vanessa called the SGLI office and was told that the designation had been changed on October 3rd. She called me that night. "Arthur, did you change Ryan's life insurance?" Ryan changed it. In October. On a clear day. It can't. He wasn't competent to. He was competent enough to document your affair, your caregiver fraud, and your plan to collect $400,000 from his death. He was competent enough to change his will, his beneficiaries, and his entire estate plan while you were spending his disability money on your boyfriend's apartment. He had bad days, Vanessa. But his clear days were clearer than anything you've ever done. Vanessa was charged on April 15, 2025. Federal charges VA caregiver fraud under 18 U.S.C. Section 1001, making false statements to a federal agency. Wire fraud under 18 U.S.C. Section 1343, for the electronic transfer of fraudulently obtained caregiver stipend payments. And attempted theft of government benefits, for the SGLI claim filed with knowledge that the beneficiary designation had been changed. Troy Devlin was charged as a co-conspirator. The text messages showed that he had knowledge of and benefited from the caregiver fraud, and that he and Vanessa had discussed the SGLI payout as a shared financial plan. The trial was in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia, the Rocket Docket. As it's known in legal circles, one of the fastest federal courts in the country for case disposition. The trial lasted 4 days. The prosecution played the text messages. The jury saw Vanessa write, "When he dies, the SGLI pays $400K. We just have to wait." They saw Troy reply, "How long?" And Vanessa, "Doctors say months. Maybe less. The seizures are getting worse." They were timing his death, calibrating their financial plan to the frequency of his seizures, watching my son's brain destroy itself and calculating the payout per episode. The prosecution called Frank Barrera, the neighbor, the retired master sergeant, the man who'd witnessed Ryan's will, and kept a log of Vanessa's absences. Frank testified in his Marine Corps League blazer with 3 rows of ribbons on the chest. He described the nights Vanessa was gone. The mornings he'd check on Ryan and find him alone, sometimes on the floor after a seizure, sometimes in the recliner with the TV on and food untouched on the counter. Sergeant Caldwell was my neighbor and my brother Marine, Frank told the jury. His wife left him alone to have seizures on the floor while she was at her boyfriend's apartment. She collected $1,800 a month from the VA to take care of him. She didn't take care of him. She counted the days until he died. Vanessa was found guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison and ordered to repay all her $64,800 in fraudulently obtained caregiver stipend payments. Troy Devlin was sentenced to 14 months and ordered to pay $18,000 in restitution, the portion of the caregiver funds that had been used to subsidize his rent. The house on Garrisonville Road was transferred to the trust for Lillian Harper, with me as trustee per Ryan's will. The $400,000 esquila was paid to the girls, $200,000 each, deposited in custodial accounts at USAA that I manage until they turn 18. The $62,000 USAA investment account was transferred to me for their education fund. Custody of Lillian Harper was awarded to me by the Stafford County Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court. Vanessa's parental rights were not terminated, but her incarceration and the criminal conviction resulted in temporary custody being granted to me, with supervised visitation rights after her release. I'm 66 years old. I'm raising 2 granddaughters. Lily is 7 and she asks about her father every night before bed. Harper is 4 and she doesn't ask because she doesn't have enough memories to know what questions to form. I tell them both the same thing. Your daddy was a Marine. He was brave. He loved you more than anything. And he made sure you'd be taken care of. I don't tell them about the crawl space. I don't tell them about the lockbox. I don't tell them about the clear days when their father, a man whose brain was betraying him, crawled beneath his own house to hide the evidence that would protect them. They'll learn that when they're older, when they can understand that their father fought 2 wars, one in Afghanistan and one in his own living room, and won both. The lockbox is in my closet now. I keep it next to the folded flag, the flag the Marines gave Vanessa, that she left on the mantel when she was arrested, that I took home the same day because no one else was going to carry it. I carry it, the way I carry the girls, the way I carry Ryan's memory, the way Marines carry each other, not because it's easy, but because it's the only thing that matters. I'm Arthur Caldwell. I'm 66 years old. After my son's funeral, his wife threw me out to move her lover in. 1 minute later, a man walked into my son's house with a duffel bag. But my son, a Marine with a broken brain and clear days, had already won. From a crawl space, with a lockbox, and a will that said Semper Fi. If this story touched you, leave a comment. Tell me what you think Ryan would say to Lillian Harper if he could sit with them one more time. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about family, truth, and the Marines who fight even when the war is at home. Before we close, this story, like all stories on this channel, contains fictional elements crafted for entertainment and educational purposes. If this type of content isn't for you, that's completely okay. Take care of yourselves. But if you stayed until the end, thank you. Ryan would have appreciated it. He always said the people who stay are the people who matter. Always faithful.